That's the sound of 348 Ugandan MPs celebrating. They've just overwhelmingly passed a new law. Only one person voted against it. And the law that these MPs are cheering for? It's one that makes it illegal for lesbian, gay, bisexual or trans Ugandans to have a relationship with someone of the same sex.
We will have our morals, we will protect our children, and we are making this law, for ourselves, we are making this law for our children, we are making this law for the children of our children.
That's Musa Ekweru, one of those MPs.
This country will stand firm. We are going to reinforce the law enforcement officers to make sure that homosexuals have no space in Uganda.
Uganda's Anti-Homosexuality Act adds life in prison, even the death penalty as a punishment, further criminalising the LGBT+ community.
We have always been discriminated. We have always been tortured. We have always been denied access to different services. So we are not safe at all. And I'm scared.
What's it like to be LGBT+ in a country where the state wants to send you to prison for who you are? And why has Uganda set itself upon this path? I'm Kamali Melbourne, and this is the Sky News Daily. Human Rights Watch will join me on the podcast later, but first, Jay Mulucha, a transgender man, is the director of the LGBT+ rights group Fem Alliance Uganda.
Of course, right now, I'm not safe, and we are not safe as LGBT persons in Uganda, because now the bill is now a law. I expected that this law was going to pass because there was a lot of pressure from the general public, the parliamentarians, the government officials, even different African countries were supporting it. So we expected that it was going to pass.
Jay, what's it like being LGBT+ in Uganda?
Being an LGBT person in Uganda is criminal, it's criminalized. So it's not a good thing, it's not a good environment that we are living in as LGBT people in Uganda, because we have always been discriminated. We have always been tortured. We have always been denied access to different services and needs. We have been thrown out of schools. We have been denied access to health service provision. We have been sent away from homes. Our families have denied us, sent away from our jobs. And actually, we can't get jobs because of who we are. So it's not something good to be LGBT. So we are not safe at all. And I'm scared and fear that most of the LGBT people are trying to escape and leave the country. The situation is too bad, scary. There is a lot of anxiety. It's not good.
Many in the community are looking to leave the country. Would you, if you could?
At the moment, I'm not ready to leave because I'm a leader in my community and most of the people look up to me. I really don't want to run away and leave them behind. I feel like I should stay and fight this battle with my people, because in my heart, I feel it's not right to run away. If we all keep on running away, then who will stand for our rights? Who will fight these battles? Who will be there? Because it's not only us. We have the young generation coming up. Will they also have to run away all the time? This is our country. This is where we are born. We have rights as other human beings. We are not different from any human being.
How's it been with your family since you started living your truth? I mean, how's it been for you and your family and those that were close to you?
Of course, as a trans man, when I was growing up, I didn't know that I was this. When I was 8 years, I realized I wanted to do a lot of boyish things. And the good thing with that, I was a sports person. I play basketball. So I would camouflage through sports because I knew if my family got to know about it, they would throw me out because it's a religious family. And when I was a child, I would find myself stealing clothes, my brother's clothes, so that I could put them on because I felt that that's what I wanted. When I left high school, that is when I got to know about the trans community, and I realized that I was a trans person. But my family has never accepted me. I only have one sister of mine, young sister of mine, who accepted me the way I am. And she has always tried to tell them that I'm their blood and they can't throw me out. But of course, it's the culture in Uganda. They don't want to accept that.
Now, there are many in Ugandan society who want to see this law passed. Can you talk to us about what is it in Ugandan society and Ugandan culture in the way that people live that means they're so fearful of the LGBT plus community?
Many African countries believe in culture and believe in religion. So they always focus on, especially when we come to the religious aspect, they think of the Bible. So they feel like they have to act according to what the Bible tells them, no matter what. So this has been mostly influenced by cultural and religious leaders and the community at large. When this bill was tabled in Parliament, we got religious leaders and cultural leaders who visited the Speaker of Parliament, and they also went to Parliament to make sure they push for this law to pass. These evangelists that come from Europe, the US, and all over, they come and they always make sure they support. So it has been influenced, and there is a lot of pressure and support that has come in from outside. They always want us to fulfill the obligations of the Bible and the culture. A girl has to get married and give birth to children and stay with the husband in the house. Vis-a-vis, a man has to be with a woman and give birth, and so on. We have been accused a lot as the gay community, because I can give an example, a recent example of COVID. When COVID came into Uganda, people in Uganda started saying it's because there is an increase in the gay community and God is very mad at us. That is why he has sent COVID to the country. That leads to violations of the LGBT persons.
This House will not shy to restrict any right to the extent of the House recognizes, protects, and safeguards the sovereignty of this country, the morals of this country, the cultures, and will always legislate for our people.
Now, those behind the law say it's designed to strengthen traditional family values. They see homosexuality as a threat and one that needs to be eradicated. Ashwanee Budoo-Scholtz is the Deputy Director of the Africa Division at Human Rights Watch.
Just the mere fact that you identify as an LGBT person, you're not criminalized. But the criminalization comes when you engage in sexual acts. But this particular act that was adopted on Monday creates new offenses, such as promotion of homosexuality with imprisonment for a term not exceeding 20 years. And this puts NGOs and activists that are working in this area at risk. It also horribly includes death penalty for acts considered as aggravated homosexuality, which is also a new offense being created, and acts that are considered as aggravated homosexuality under the law include having sexual acts with children, older persons, persons with mental illness, persons with disabilities, The inclusion of persons with disabilities is also discriminatory because it doesn't consider persons with disabilities having the agency to consent to having sex. The death penalty could also be meted if you give someone a terminal illness after a sexual act.
Is there something unique about Uganda in making these kind of laws more severe, or do we need to look more widely at the continent of Africa?
Uganda is one country that has been persistent about this particular law, wanted to create these new offenses and reiterate that having same-sex act is a criminal offense in Uganda. Also, the law at the moment has a lot of support in Uganda. And this is because there has been anti-LGBT campaign proponents, which have been running campaigns for months. Coming to the region, it would not be fair to lump all African countries in the same basket. And unfortunately, when it comes to LGBT people in sub-Saharan Africa, regressive developments have garnered considerable international attention. And that has overshadowed the progress that has been made. Recently, this year, you have other countries in the region, such as Angola, Botswana, Gabon, Lesotho, Mozambique, and Seychelles, and South Africa, of course, who have decriminalized same sex. But on the downside, you have countries like Eswatini, Burundi, Ghana, Tanzania, who are on the same wavelength as Uganda. And they actually do want to adopt stricter laws and do not want to recognize the rights of LGBTI community.
What part does organized religion, Christianity, and Islam play in these regressive laws?
If you look at the African continent before colonization, there was no law that was formally criminalizing homosexuality. The trend of laws criminalizing came from British colonial laws or French colonial laws, where their penal codes would have the offense of sodomy and would criminalize the offense of sodomy. And colonization also brought about the Christianization of the African continent. But I think it's very important to delineate religion when it comes to rights. Uganda is not a religious state, it's a secular state.
How difficult does this new law make it for people that need to seek treatment for sexually transmitted diseases?
There has actually been a joint statement by the Global Fund, UNAIDS, and PEPFAR, which state that the Anti-Homosexuality Act will definitely obstruct health education and the outreach that can help AIDS as a public threat. The reason also is that LGBT people in Uganda will be discouraged from seeking vital health services for fear of attack, punishment, and further marginalization, because they will have to go and talk about their sexual life and talk about how they contracted HIV in some instances to be able to access these healthcare services. So this particular law might act as a hindrance for HIV positive person or for anyone who has had sex, who has had same sex, who's scared that they might have contracted HIV to have access to the healthcare services.
A number of Western nations, the US and the UK, have criticized this law. What effects do you think that will have?
The US, the EU, the UK have condemned it. The US has even said that it will provide support to the LGBT community in Uganda, and that it has threatened to withdraw visas for the Speaker of the Parliament. The danger of these nations threatening the government for sanctions is that it can further entrench rights, especially if it comes to withdrawal of funding. No country has done that yet, neither the EU. But if that comes, it could be dangerous for all Ugandans, because Uganda relies a lot on donor funding for its budget. So these countries and institutions need to be careful when dealing when reacting to this particular law to make sure that the reaction does not cut back on funding that could help the country or the population further. So the UN, at the time this particular bill was still being debated, categorized it as probably among the worst of its kind in the world. And unfortunately, we have not had any reaction from the African Union yet.
Despite the increased risk to his life, Jay Mulucha sees hope for a future Uganda where LGBT plus people live freely and without fear.
Yes, I have hope for the future and for the nation that one day, one time, we shall overcome. I always think about these different countries that have started like us. They never started on top, and they weren't accepted just from out of the blue. It was a struggle, a lot of advocacy, a lot of sensitizations that they did, and they were accepted. I look at the US, I look at South Africa, I look at all these good countries that have these laws that favor the LGBT community. Yes, of course, they are not 100% perfect, but they are better than us. We can now even go to court and petition or challenge the law, which couldn't have been there if we weren't brave enough and stand on our two legs. So I have hope that one day, one time, we shall overcome. And we have tried our best to see that we change a lot of people. There are many people who have been changed through the advocacy sensitizations that we have done, the good work that we are doing, the image that we are showing the public that no matter what they think, we are this, but no, we are this. This is who we are. So I have a feeling one day, one time, everything will be good.
My thanks to Jay Mulucha and Ashwanee Budoo-Scholtz. You've been listening to the Sky News Daily with me, Kamali Melbourne. This episode was produced by Soila Aparicio and Amy Lakin. The editor was Philly Beaumont.